This is my roommate's cat, Pablo. Being a good boy.
Hi, it's me, Danielle. I'm back with another video. Welcome to my YouTube channel. For those of you who are new here, I'm an artist. I'm 21 years old. I go to school in New York City for musical theater, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I talked about last week about how I'm feeling very lost. You know, your 20s are always going to be, you know, like a path of discovery and like finding yourself and figuring things out. But I think, especially as an artist, it's especially hard to see your path because, you know, there isn't really a blueprint on how to be an artist. And in fact, you know, art is constantly undervalued in society and told that like you're gonna be homeless and you're gonna be broke and like you're never gonna find a job and like all these different things. And actually that is what's gonna get us into this video. If you haven't watched the previous video, I kind of give an introduction and an update to my life and like who I am and like why I decided to start posting again and posting more consistently. Someone that I'm really inspired by is Doechii. If you don't know who she is, you need to go check out her music. She's amazing. Really love everything that she stands for. And I was watching a lot of her old YouTube videos, which she still has up on her channel from years and years and years and years ago. And when she was 21, and she was also in almost the exact same position that I'm in, 21, living in New York City, figuring things out, trying to do the thing, she found this book called The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. And it's a 12-week course in discovering and recovering your creative self. And so if you haven't watched my video from last week, go watch it because I talked about feeling lost, feeling disconnected from myself, and trying to find who I really am. And that is the point of this book and this course. So we started with week 1. I wanted to check in with you all and just like kind of talk about what the point of this book is, why I want to do this book, and what I learned from week 1. Recovering a sense of safety. This week initiates your creative recovery. You may feel both giddy and defiant, hopeful and skeptical. The readings, tasks, and exercises aim at allowing you to establish a sense of safety, which will enable you to explore your creativity with less fear. And I talked a lot about fear last week in my previous YouTube video, so go check that out. I really like the structure of The Artist Way. It has an introduction, which basically talks about the topic that for each week, and then she gives examples from other students that she's had that are in similar positions that we're in, so that when we read it, we feel less alone, and we're not the only people that go through these things. We're not the only artist who feels blocked. We're not the first person in the world to ever be afraid. It talks a lot about core negative beliefs and like ways that we distance ourselves from actually pursuing what we want to pursue. That was really helpful for me because like sometimes when you're in your head and like, you know, like, oh, I feel like this isn't good enough, you get in your head about all the doubts and things, it feels like no one else is going through that. It literally starts listing off common things that self-doubt makes you think about yourself. Like, everyone will hate me, I'll go crazy, I'll hurt my family and friends, I'll do bad work and not know it and look like a fool, you know, I'll never have any real money. And these are all things that I felt, and I'm sure a lot of people who are also artists have felt. To see them laid out like in a list like this, instead of like in your head at like 2 a.m. when you're supposed to be asleep, it's kind of ridiculous that like I think these things about myself. And it kind of is like, it's a little embarrassing. It's kind of like, oh, when you read these negative beliefs and you finally see them on a page and they're not in your head and you start to feel that kind of embarrassment about it, it's because these are not things that you truly believe about yourself. These are often things that people have convinced you to believe about yourself. So a lot of the assignments for this week were centered around that and kind of going back into your past and really discovering, you know, what parts of your creativity are actually things that you believe about yourself and what are things that you've been told to believe about yourself. So essentially she had us list 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Your historic monsters are the building blocks of your core negative beliefs. It is always necessary to acknowledge creative injuries and grieve them. Otherwise, they become creative scar tissues and block your growth. And this like is such perfect timing because as I was writing out and like kind of thinking about the times in which I shared my creativity and someone met that with discouragement, it really took me back to this one specific instance that I will share. This was the first time that I had ever worked with a producer. And there was this producer who went to my church. His name was Akeem Dunkley. The first mentor that I had musically, where I make my demos and then send it to him, and he would reproduce it and like kind of like, you know, reimagine the song in with my chords and with my progressions and with my like style. And it was the most fulfilling thing at the time, because like a lot of the reason why I was writing music was because I was being bullied in school and people didn't want to talk to me. People didn't want to listen to my ideas. And I can talk about this another day too, like if I want to get more into like childhood and bullying and making friends and all that. Like definitely I want to make a video talking about that. So I would write music, and almost all of my experiences with my art at that time were negative. Anytime I like was writing music in school, my teachers would be like, you need to put that away, you need to be doing your work. I'd finish my work and then go back to writing, and then that was a problem. Or if I was talking about a song with someone, one of my classmates, they'd be like, we don't want to hear that. It was the first time that someone actually cared about my music and liked my music and wanted to hear more and work with me. And so for a couple months, I would go down to the studio, we'd like do some vocal layering, we'd fix up the songs and stuff. And he taught me a lot. And that was actually the beginning of my music journey, essentially, where I learned how to actually professionally make music. And a lot of the things that I learned from him, I still use to this day. Finally had something that I was proud of, and something that like someone else was proud of me for. And so I went to school and I was sharing that with everyone. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, like I was in the studio yesterday. It was so fun. Like, guys what? I was like in the studio. And this one girl, she told me, she looked me in the eye and said, no one cares that you were in the studio yesterday. You're never gonna have a music career, so you should just give up now. And 10 years later, that has still affected me. And there's so many times in which I'm writing music now, and I'm like, no one wants to hear that. No one wants to hear that. This sucks. No one's gonna listen. No one cares about this. And this exercise really put into perspective that a lot of the self-doubt that I have about my own work is not necessarily something that I truly believe about myself. It's things that people have said to me. This also goes into the conversation that I had about a teacher right around this time. I'm too smart to do music. And so a lot of my experiences that I had in the beginning stages of my musical journey and my creative journey were negative. Like a lot of times when I tried to share my creativity with people, it was very, very negative. That has stuck with me a lot. And even now that I've accomplished many things and I continue to do things, those scars still come up and they lead through everything that I do, because a lot of what I experienced in the beginning was very negative reception. But that kind of ties into where I am now, in the sense that I'm now at a place in my life where I'm trying to figure out, well, what do I actually believe about myself? What do I actually want from my creative life? What do I actually want and desire for my life that is separate from what other people desire for my life and what other people want, and what is actually what I believe? And this kind of also ties into religion, and I can make a whole other video about this as well. But I was raised very religious, and a lot of what I was taught to believe about myself was through shame, and that I should be ashamed of who I am, and God doesn't like who I am, so I should be ashamed of it. And whether this is true or not, it's a big part of how I grew up. I got to high school, which is a big time for a lot of people to discover themselves and to figure themselves out. I was taught that we need to be modest. I was not allowed to have blue hair in high school. I went to a boarding school. They measured the length of our skirts. We were not allowed to wear jewelry, and we were not allowed to wear nail polish unless it was like a pink that looks like your nails. It was very conservative and very suppressive. And as a young creative who, like, high school was the time where you're supposed to do stupid shit and make mistakes, and you're supposed to look ugly and do all the things and do crazy stuff. I didn't have that experience. And I was constantly shamed into believing that those things were wrong. Ever since I was a kid, I've always been different. I've always thought differently. I've always questioned the things around me and the world around me, whether that be religion, whether that be about gender. That's another topic for another day. And how I was taught to believe that this is how a young lady is supposed to behave, and this is how a young lady is supposed to act. And I think a huge part of why I feel so creatively blocked right now is because I've been shoved and forced and choked with everyone else's beliefs about what I need to be and who I should be and what God wants me to be. And I haven't ever been given the space to actually explore who I am and who I want to be. And so there was a point where I was going through these assignments and I was thinking about my past and I was writing about it, and I was just sobbing and crying. My roommate was asleep and I'm like trying not to cry too loud, but I'm sobbing over my notebook writing about these experiences. And this anger comes up in me because I realized how much of my life is just about what everyone else wanted for me. And how every time I said, wait, but I think this is what I want to do, I was never given that space. And it was always what everyone else wanted. Well, what do you think your dad's going to think about that? Do you think your dad will let you do that? What do you think God's going to think about that? Do you want to have a man one day? Do you want to get married one day? You think a man's going to love you if you act like this, if you talk like this? All these different things that have been pushed onto me and choked down my throat about who I need to be. And I was never given the space to actually be myself. And it angered me so much that I have believed these things about myself. I have believed what these people have been telling me that I should be. And it's frustrating that every time I sit down to write a song, I can't, because the words that a little girl said to me in 5th grade keep replaying in my brain, that nobody cares about what I make and nobody cares about the things that I care about. And so now at 21 years old, I still believe that. I still believe that because it was so ingrained in me at such a young age that it became something that I believed about myself, whether it's true or not. Being a sensitive person and someone that absorbs the world around me, I'm so frustrated that that's what people chose to put into me. That instead of seeing my gifts and seeing my talents and believing in those things, people chose to tell me I should be something different. And when I tried to express myself and I tried to show my creativity, people told me that no man would ever love me if I act like that. And instead of allowing and planting the seeds for me to grow, people decided to stomp on it and tell me that that's not what I need to be and I should be something else. I told my parents I do not want to go to a Christian college. My parents both met at a Christian college. That's where they went, and that's where they wanted me to go. And I told them I can't. I don't think that if I was still in a Christian environment, I would even be asking these questions. And especially during COVID, when we weren't allowed to go to church and we all had to be at home, my beliefs started unraveling because I realized without the ritual and without the habit of doing these things every day, what really is the core of what I believe. I was a good old church kid. I did everything that I was told was right. And something still felt off. Something still felt wrong. Something still didn't feel fully complete. Because I felt like I'm doing the right things, but I'm hiding who I really am. But when I came to college, it's not that I wanted to denounce my religion and, I wanted to be rebellious and do all the things that I was told I was never allowed to do. It's just I genuinely want to discover, what do I actually believe? What I've been taught to believe morally through religion, and what I've been taught to believe about myself and creatively through my community around me and how I've grown up, they're all connected. And all of those things are contributing now to this creative blockage that I have, because I think I'm realizing a lot of what people told me was right is just what they thought was right. But that doesn't mean it's right for me. I always knew since I was a kid that I was meant for something more than what everyone was telling me I should be. But I never had the space to explore it. And now I have to give myself that space. And that's why I'm doing this. And that's why I'm doing this and trying to find people who might be going through the same thing. Just recorded a video and posted it, and I was like, I don't know who's gonna see this. I don't know if my parents or my family are gonna see this. I don't know who's gonna see this. But the couple of comments that I've gotten on that video and how encouraging people have been in seeing me be vulnerable invigorated me in a way that I haven't really experienced up until now, because this is the first time that I actually get to say, this is who I am. And this is the first time that I finally am speaking my truth and speaking what I believe and not just what everyone else wants me to believe. I still have so much more to learn, and I still have so much more to discover, and that I have to figure out who I am and figure out my path. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. That's exactly what Artist Way is about, is discovering who you truly are. I don't know if I'm a Christian. I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am. And that's what this journey is about, is discovering that through my art, through my music, because music has always been there for me. I'm ready. I'm ready to find who I really am and stop believing the things that everyone wants me to believe. And I'm tired of being scared and drowning underneath my own doubt. I want to be free. I want to actually follow the gifts that I've been given. I've been given these things for a reason. There's a reason why I stay up every night thinking about music and thinking about different things that I want to say and poems I want to write. There's a reason why, and I knew that there was a reason why ever since I was a kid. And it's time now for me to discover what that reason is. And so, week two is about, this week addresses self-definition as a major component of creative recovery. You may find yourself drawing new boundaries and staking out new territories as your personal needs, desires, and interests announce themselves. The essays and tools are aimed at moving you into your personal identity, a self-defined you. Perfect fucking timing. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I'm ready for week 2. Let's fucking go. Week 2, Artist Way. We're finding a self-defined you. Not what my parents think about me, not what my community thinks about me, not even what God thinks about me. What I think about me. Because this is my life. This is the life I have to live. And I wouldn't be having this experience if it wasn't for a reason. I wouldn't be on this planet if it wasn't for a reason. I wouldn't be having these creative ideas if it wasn't for a reason. And I want to find what that is. So I'm excited to see what else we learn from this. And of course, I will update y'all. I will keep y'all on the journey. I'm planning to make a bunch of videos about, religion and how it's affected me living in a boarding school at 14, why I started writing my album, what inspires me. I want to make videos on all of it. I really want to get into the juice of the things that kept me going, because even through all of these things that people have forced onto me, I knew that there was something that wasn't quite right. And I want to share with you all the things that kept me going and kept me believing in myself, even when other people kept trying to shove what they believe onto me. Ask me those questions. Keep commenting. You guys, the comments have really helped me and have really inspired me. I'm excited to just live life for me and live life connected to my purpose. And I hope that you all will continue to be a part of that. So have a great week, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.